On Easter Sunday 1967, a man stepped into the mist of Malaysia's Cameron Highlands and vanished forever. Not just any man, mind you, but Jim Thompson, an American intelligence operative turned international businessman. He single-handedly revitalised Thailand's silk industry and became known as the Silk King. The search that followed was unprecedented. Over 500 people combing 17 square miles of jungle. Military helicopters, tracking dogs, indigenous trackers, even shaman. Yet not a single trace of Jim Thompson was ever found. No footprints, no torn clothes, nothing. What makes a seasoned jungle operative with survival training disappear without any trace? Why did mysterious men search his home back in Bangkok before his disappearance was even made public? And why, after more than 50 years, do some of the official files still remain classified? So let's get a cup of tea at the ready and have a wee look at the extraordinary disappearance of the Silk King. A mystery that weaves together Cold War espionage, Asian mysticism, and one of the most baffling vanishings of the 20th century. Hi folks, I'm Johnny and welcome to The Oddest. So today we're travelling to Southeast Asia to investigate a disappearance that has haunted intelligence agencies and mystery enthusiasts for more than 5 decades. If you've ever visited Bangkok, you may well have encountered the name Jim Thompson. It's now a global brand selling luxurious Thai silk products in high-end shops all across Asia. The Jim Thompson House is one of Bangkok's most visited museums. But behind this success story lies one of the Cold War's most enduring mysteries. So what makes this case particularly intriguing? Well, it's how it combines seemingly contradictory elements. A public figure with a secret past, a thoroughly searched area with no results, and theories that range from mundane accidents to international conspiracies. To understand this mystery, we first need to understand the man. James Harrison Wilson Thompson was born in 1906 in Delaware to a wealthy and well-connected American family. His grandfather had been a military representative at the coronation of King Edward VII and interestingly had met the then Crown Prince of Thailand, though it's unclear if this early family connection to Thailand influenced Thompson's later life choices. Thompson would go on to graduate from Princeton in 1928 and studied architecture, although he never actually completed his degree or passed the architectural board exams. By all accounts, his early career in New York was successful, if not particularly remarkable. See, he worked as a designer and he maintained a busy social life in the city. But the turning point came in late 1930s. Thompson joined the military and then transferred to the Office of Strategic Services, or the OSS, which would later evolve into what we now know as the CIA. During World War II, Thompson served in North Africa, Italy and France before being trained for operations across in Thailand. I mean, as you can imagine, his training was extensive with all types of survival skills and how to kill people with a paperclip and all that stuff. They would even drop him off in a deserted island for a period of time as part of his training. When Japan subsequently surrendered in August of 1945, Thompson was en route to Thailand. Instead of returning to America, like most servicemen did, he requested to remain over in Bangkok, where he helped establish a temporary American consulate. In 1946, Thompson received orders to return back to the United States. He was eager to reunite with his wife Patricia, whom he hadn't seen in nearly 4 years. But upon his return, the bold Patricia Thompson was like, not so fast here, buddy. God knows what type of shenanigans you got up to in Thailand, and besides, I've moved on. So, it's the old DIVORCE for you, my friend. Now, of course, Jim was devastated at first, but ultimately, he was like, no worries, I'll just be heading back to Bangkok, I like it there better anyway. So, he left America again and headed back to Thailand. It was there that Thompson stumbled upon his second calling while wandering around in Bangkok. He was just exploring the silk district, typical tourist type stuff, when he became absolutely fascinated with traditional Thai silk weaving. The craft was basically on life support at that point. Cheaper Japanese and European textiles were crushing the local industry. But Thompson wasn't about to let this beautiful tradition die. The guy leveraged his connections, business smarts and artistic eye to breathe new life into the whole industry. Then in 1948, he launched the Thai Silk Company Limited, and here's something most people didn't realise. He wasn't some foreign entrepreneur swooping in to take over. He actually made sure that local Thais maintained majority ownership of the company. The timing? Absolutely perfect. His silks quickly caught the eye of big-name fashion designers and even made their way into Broadway shows like The King and I. Now, fast forward to the 1960s, and Thompson's silk was everywhere. Luxury hotels across Asia, celebrity homes around the world. The man had created a genuine silk empire. His home in Bangkok was something else entirely. Instead of building something new, he had 6 ancient Thai houses transported and reassembled into this incredible compound. He filled every corner with amazing Asian antiques and art pieces. The place became the spot for Bangkok's high society to go and hang out. But here's where things get really interesting. Despite all his public success, Thompson remained this mysterious figure. His former intelligence pals noticed that he kept some pretty unusual connections throughout Southeast Asia, and honestly, many suspect that he never actually hung up his spy hat at all. Alright, so now we're getting into the really wild part of this story. So it's Easter Sunday, March 26th, 1967. Jim Thompson, now 61 years old, is taking a relaxing holiday with his longtime friend Connie Mangskua at this place called Moonlight Cottage in Malaysia's Cameron Highlands. It's this gorgeous, lush mountain region famous for its tea plantations and nice, cool weather. A perfect getaway spot. They're staying with a Singaporean chemist called Dr. T.G. Ling and his American wife Helen. That morning, they all head to Easter services at the local Anglican church. Thompson had mentioned that he would walk down to the church using Kamunting Road rather than cutting through the jungle trails. This does make sense since he was rocking one of his fancy new silk tie suits. This was one of the rare moments during the trip when nobody was actually with him. After church, everyone headed back to the cottage for lunch around 1:30. By all accounts, it was a nice meal, though some people later mentioned that Thompson seemed kind of antsy, like he couldn't quite settle. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, while everyone's taking it easy and resting, Thompson decides he wants to stretch his legs a little. Helen Ling and Connie actually saw him leave down the cottage's only access road. One strange thing here though, was that he left behind his cigarettes, his jacket, and most tellingly, his jungle box which contained his medication for a painful gallstone attack. I would say that's a pretty clear sign that the man wasn't planning to be gone for long. The Lings would later say that they heard an aluminium deck chair being moved on the veranda shortly after 3 p.m, followed by footsteps crunching down the gravel path. Helen Ling even claimed that she could tell they were European footsteps rather than Asian ones, whatever that means. There was supposedly one more sighting after he left. Around 4 p.m, a cook from the nearby Lutheran Mission bungalow said that they spotted Thompson walking past, and then there was nothing. The Silk King literally vanished into thin air. When 6 o'clock rolled around and Thompson still hadn't shown up, his friends started to worry. Dr. Ling checked the golf club and other spots Thompson might have wandered off to. By nightfall, the zero sign of him, well, they finally called the cops. And here's what makes the whole thing so mind-boggling. Thompson wasn't just some clueless tourist. The man had some serious jungle experience from his military days. He was in pretty good shape for a guy in his 60s, and the area where he disappeared, it wasn't even like a remote, dangerous wilderness area. It was a popular tourist spot with clearly marked paths. The search for Jim Thompson blew up to absolutely insane levels. Within days, there was over 500 people scouring every inch of those highlands. Professional trackers, Malaysian police, indigenous Orang Asli tribesmen, who were legendary for their jungle knowledge by the way, British soldiers, American military personnel, well, they all jumped in to help. They had helicopters buzzing overhead, dogs trying to pick up his scent. The search area grew to cover more than 17 square miles. They even offered a reward of $25,000, which was serious money back in 1967. And you know what they found? Absolutely nothing. Not a single footprint, not a torn piece of clothing, not one tiny clue to suggest what on earth happened to Jim Thompson. It's like he just stepped off the face of the planet. I mean, you would think if something did happen to him, like maybe he had a wee accident or he had succumbed to the elements, surely there would be some sort of sign, at the very least a body or some personal effects, heck, maybe even a shoe. But there was nothing. Now here's where things get truly bizarre. As the search continued in Malaysia, strange events were unfolding elsewhere. According to Jim Thompson's staff, within hours of his disappearance being reported, but before it had been made public, unknown men showed up at his Bangkok property, claiming to be the police. They demanded access to Thompson's personal files and appeared to be searching for something very specific. When questioned later on, Thai police denied ever sending anyone to the residence. In a coincidence that stretches credibility, Thompson's sister, Catherine Thompson, would, well, she was murdered in Pennsylvania just months later, on August 30th of 1967. This was the very day that Jim Thompson was officially declared dead. She was found beaten to death in her home. While a man was eventually convicted of her murder, many researchers believe there might be a connection between these two events. Was she silenced because she knew something about her brother's fate? The American Embassy's involvement in the search was unusually intense for a private citizen. Declassified documents show the case went all the way to the US Secretary of State, and yet much of the official investigation still remains classified to this day. Why would a former intelligence officer's hiking accident warrant such secrecy more than 5 decades later? Here's another peculiar detail. Bloodhound dogs searched the Moonlight Bungalow for scent trails of Thompson, and they didn't find any leading down the only access road or into the jungle. This led Malaysian police to conclude early on that Thompson must have left the area in a vehicle, breaking the scent trail. And here's another thing as well. Jim Thompson and Mangskow had experienced unusual driver changes during their journey to the Cameron Highlands. While these were later explained as common practice in that area, at the time they raised suspicions of a planned abduction. Over the decades, several theories have emerged to explain Thompson's disappearance. So let's take a wee look, shall we? First, the official explanation. Jim Thompson simply got lost and succumbed to the jungle. Malaysian authorities maintained that he wandered off the path, became disorientated, and either died from exposure or an injury. But this theory has serious problems. The search was extremely thorough. The Cameron Highlands, while sure it's scenic, it's not like it's a deep, impenetrable jungle. Thompson was experienced in jungle navigation from his OSS and CIA days, and even he boasted about his survival skills the very day before he disappeared. Most importantly, if he had died from natural causes, his remains would have been found eventually. As we know from forensic science, even in tropical conditions, some remains, particularly bone fragments, would still be there. The second theory suggests that Thompson staged his own disappearance. By 1967, some suggest Thompson may have wanted to escape his life, perhaps with a secret fortune. This theory gained traction when reports emerged of a Thompson look-alike spotted in Tahiti months after his reported disappearance. However, no concrete evidence has ever confirmed this sighting. Those closest to him reject the notion that he would abandon his beloved business and home. Furthermore, he left behind his heart medicine, not something that he would do if he was planning a new life elsewhere. Let's look at the third theory, perhaps the most intriguing one. This involves Thompson's intelligence background. Former CIA operatives have suggested that Thompson may have been assassinated because of information that he possessed. Remember, this was 1967, the height of the Cold War and the Vietnam conflict. Thailand was a crucial US ally, hosting American military bases. Thompson moved in elite circles and was known to be critical of US policy in Vietnam. According to this theory, Thompson either knew too much or he was planning to reveal sensitive information. His elimination was made to look like a disappearance. Supporting this theory is the strange behaviour of both the American and Thai officials during the investigation, the mysterious visitors to his home, and reports that Thompson had scheduled meetings with journalists upon his return back to Bangkok. The final theory embraces local beliefs. The Cameron Highlands have long been associated with supernatural phenomena in Malaysian folklore. Local Orang Asli tribes believe that the Highlands are home to spirits that can make people vanish. Some witnesses reported unusual phenomena around the time of Thompson's disappearance, including strange lights and unexplained sounds. I mean, while this might seem far-fetched to some people, it's worth noting that in Scottish folklore here, we have similar tales of people being taken away by the fairies, often in misty Highland areas, not unlike that of Cameron Highlands across there. Perhaps there's a wee bit of truth to these ancient beliefs. There's also a theory that emerged decades later. In 1985, bone fragments without a skull were discovered by Orang Asli settlers in a grave at the edge of a vegetable plot in Birchang, not far from where Thompson had actually vanished. Researcher Philip J. Rivers, he suggests that these could be Thompson's remains, possibly indicating that he was the victim of a hit-and-run accident with his body hidden afterwards. However, no DNA testing has ever confirmed this theory, and the current location of these remains are unknown. In 2015, researcher Llewellyn Toulmin conducted a detailed analysis of the 1967 search from a modern search and rescue perspective. His findings are fairly interesting to say the least. According to Toulmin's analysis, despite the impressive 1,448 person days of searching, the probability of success was actually only between 30 and 43%. In other words, there was a higher probability of missing Thompson's body than finding it, even if it was still in the search area. Toulmin identified various errors in search tactics that reduced the effectiveness of this effort. Despite being the biggest land search in Malaysian history, it certainly wasn't the best search. His analysis concluded that the most likely scenario is that Thompson's remains are still somewhere in the Cameron Highlands, spread over 1 to 4 square miles due to predation and natural decomposition. Toulmin also investigated the murder of Thompson's sister, but he found no provable link between the two cases, despite their suspicious timing. After examining all the evidence, here's my own thoughts on what likely happened to Jim Thompson. The accident theory simply doesn't hold up under scrutiny. The search was thorough, and Thompson was too experienced for no trace to ever be found. Similarly, the voluntary disappearance theory falls apart when we consider Thompson left behind his heart medicine, and he had no apparent motive to abandon his successful life. The supernatural explanation, while culturally significant, well, that lacks tangible evidence. So this leaves us with the intelligence connection. Thompson's OSS CIA background, the Cold War context, the strange visitors to his home, and the highly unusual level of government interest all point in one direction. Jim Thompson knew something that made him dangerous to powerful people. I firmly believe that Thompson either had planned a meeting in the Cameron Highlands that went wrong, or he was lured there specifically because the location provided the perfect cover for his assassination. Consider this. The bloodhounds found no scent trail from the cottage. So what if he never actually left on foot but was picked up by someone in a vehicle? His body was likely removed from the area entirely, explaining why no trace was ever found despite the extensive search. Whatever the truth is, the disappearance of Jim Thompson remains one of the most baffling cold cases of the 20th century. A man who survived dangerous intelligence operations during World War II and built an international business empire simply stepped into the mist one Easter Sunday and vanished forever. So I have to ask, in a world where intelligence agencies can topple governments, is it really so hard to believe that they could make one man vanish without a trace? What do you think happened to Jim Thompson? Honestly, let me know your theories in the comments below. That's it for another video, folks. Thanks ever so much for joining me on this one. I hope you're all doing well. Remember, stay safe out there. Tell someone that you love them. And above all else, keep smiling.